to it at night.
Hello and welcome.
Hey
Today,
guys.
this is Holly Kim. I'm Dean. Look, today we're talking about forgive or not forgive. That is the question.
I was saying how nice my man's hair looks today.
Listen, we're gonna discuss the advantages of forgiveness and the disadvantages of unforgiveness, and show you three reasons why it's so important. And by the end of this broadcast, you will be ready to forgive. And we're going to assist you in that process. So I'm Dean Sinceri. Like I said, this is my lovely wife, beautiful wife, Holly Kim. And we've been married how long?
30 years
30
and
years.
probably 6 months. Yeah.
6 months. Yes. So we're going to jump right into the topic. Forgive or not forgive? That is the question. But let's look at what is forgiveness before we look into it. Forgiveness is really the process of letting go of past hurts. Very simple definition. And I want you to think about if you've lived more than 1 or 2 days in your life, you have experienced hurt, you've experienced disappointment, you've experienced loss, and we all have. And some of those experiences are bigger than others. But what they all have in common is that they cause wounding that needs to be let go. And so forgiveness is actually the process of letting that go. Holly Kim was just talking before that forgiveness is often misunderstood. What did you mean by that?
Yeah. A lot of people think that if you say you have forgiven them or forgiven something, it's like you have no boundaries. They think that that comes with no boundaries. So let's say you forgive somebody and you choose not to have the same relationship after the wound, but you do forgive them. You don't have ill will in your heart. You don't want to hurt them. You think kind thoughts for them. You pray for them. However, the boundary limit of the relationship is different now. And so you've made a decision that you're not going to, talk to them every day on the telephone or whatever. And you're not going to, go to their house or whatever. But you still are kind. You still are interested in their lives. You still, are like you're connected to them heart to heart, and your heart is softened towards them. But as far as being in a relationship the way it was, there's something different that you've
That
made a
may
decision.
change.
Yeah, that's changed due to the situation. But it doesn't mean that you haven't forgiven.
Oftentimes people think, and that's a great point, that forgiveness is about my relationship with you.
Right.
And it's not.
It's not.
It's about your own healing process.
That's right.
Has nothing to do with the other person.
That's right.
You know, someone told me, gave me an illustration. They said, if Joe punched you in the face, went about his business, the next day, one time that next day, you thought about, man, Joe punched me in the face. And the next day, I thought about it once that day. And the next day, man, I'm angry. My jaw is still hurting. Joe punched me in the face. 30 days, if I thought about him punching me in the face every day, after 30 days, how many times has he punched me?
31 times.
31 times. So forgiveness is about stopping the continued punching, which has nothing to do with Joe, because I might have a
Right.
relationship. I may not give him my cheek. I might not be with him. I may be with him. But that's a whole different issue.
Right.
It has nothing to do with forgiveness. Well, let's look at the price of unforgiveness. Hello, Robin. Robin said she's flying on a plane.
Oh, hey, Robin.
Yes, the price of unforgiveness. There is a huge price to pay when we carry unforgiveness and we carry hurts. Do you know a lot or some of mental illness is actually rooted in unforgiveness? I've experienced a hurt in my past. I have not overcome it. I'm still carrying it, and it's causing all kinds of problems. Look, when we are in unforgiveness, our focus is not in the future, it's not in the past. In the present, it's still focused on the past.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most damaging impacts of unforgiveness is it keeps me stuck in the past and out of fully being in the present and out of being able to fully embrace my future.
And you so and in that process, you're pushing the emotion down, which is energy, which causes just an enormous amount of stuff, mainly depression, because you keep pushing the energy of the pain from what happened down, 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 down. And then that energy's moving. It can be moving in your head where you're racing, you can't sleep at night, you have insomnia, and you're not really thinking about that thing that you have unforgiveness, but the energy that it takes for unforgiveness causes all of this motion where you have heart issues, you have stomach issues, your digestive system's not working well. I mean, it causes a lot of physical
A lot of
issues.
physical
A
illness.
lot of
Yeah, that
physical
was number
illness.
5 here on the
Oh,
price of unforgiveness.
sorry, honey.
No, it's right. It's physical illness.
Yeah.
It's an interesting story. I love scripture. I love studying the Gospels. But
He
there's an
loves studying
interesting
anything, honey.
anything.
He loves to study.
But there's a story when the Lord was dealing with a crippled man, and he said, "Your sins are forgiven."
That's right.
And then the man got up and walked. Oh, he said he basically he released forgiveness first before he was able to heal the guy.
Yeah.
And what struck me was, why did he forgive first before the guy got healed?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe unforgiveness kept him crippled.
Yeah.
And that when forgiveness is released, it actually heals our body.
Yes.
But the opposite is true too, is that unforgiveness actually can cause physical illness. Look, we tend to separate our spiritual life, our emotional life from our physical life, but they're all closely intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
And so know that unforgiveness can have great impact on your body. Also, another price of unforgiveness is chronic anger. Yeah, it's true. if I'm carrying unforgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
guess who gets it? The people closest to me.
Mm-hmm.
Look, if I was a teenager and I was betrayed by my girlfriend and she went and ran off with my good friend and I never resolved that, and then I get married to my wife and I'm always paranoid that she's going to run off with another guy.
Right.
And she may be as faithful as can be. And I'm angry with her because she didn't call me 10 times when she was away for 3 hours.
Right.
Like, what's that about? Is it about her? No, she's faithful. But I'm looking at her through the lens of this unresolved hurt that was never resolved.
Which goes back to the other little class we had was about grief.
Yes.
Yes. So don't forget to go look at the one on grief. That'll help you with unforgiveness.
And hello to Monica and Nikki. So good to see you guys.
Hi.
I'm glad you joined us. And so the other aspect that ties into that is unresolved forgiveness or unforgiveness leads to destroying relationships.
Yeah, totally.
It does. I mean, we've been doing counseling for 30 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, you tell them how it destroys relationships.
Well, one of the things is whatever is undealt with that hasn't been forgiven. And a lot of times, to give, people don't even realize it. So it's not like it's on purpose. Okay. But when you start to work on yourself, because, something's going on with this relationship and why you can't have this loving marriage, or you're not doing well with your children, it's that there's something that's stuck that you're probably unaware of, or you feel like, I'm never forgiving that person for that because that hurts so bad. But what happens is that you bring that into the next relationship. They talk about baggage. People come with baggage, and the bags aren't open until you're living together for about 6 months, and then the bags open. Well, what they're talking about is all the unforgiveness that you haven't really been able to process through. So all of that comes into the relationship, and now anything that person in front of you does that reminds you of what the other person did that hurt you, they get that moment of whatever it was, and they get the person that you didn't forgive yet. They get all of that stuff too.
That's not good.
Oh no, that's not good. Because then it's like that person is going to start defending themselves, because what they deserve is like a number two pushback, but you're giving them a 20, and they're like, what is this about? I didn't do that. I didn't do that. And now we're combating each other on something that becomes about unforgiveness for another person. And so it's really about what someone else did you, that now you're so afraid to be hurt again, that now fear is ruling your relationship.
Yeah. It'd be fair to say that all overreactions are rooted in unforgiveness.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That would be it. That would be a true statement for me.
True statement. Well, what about yourself? Do you struggle with forgiveness?
Or is there anybody that you have not completely forgiven? Maybe you've done a little bit, but there's more that needs to be done.
Yes. So if you struggle with that, and tell us why, tell us in the comments, and we're going to encourage you and help you get to the place that today is the day to let go. Today is the day to let go. Let's look at the reasons why we need to forgive. What are the 3 life-changing reasons why we need to forgive? One is forgiveness helps us move out of our painful past.
Yeah, that's a good reason.
Yeah, it helps us move out of our painful past. Do you know depression at its root is rooted in being stuck in the past?
Yeah.
Depression is being stuck in the past. Anxiety is about being afraid of the future.
Mm-hmm.
And the present is where presence and the presence is.
That's right. And don't you love a present?
Yes.
I do. I love presents.
I heard it one time said that when we're struggling with depression and we're stuck in the past, it's like we're walking into life backwards.
That's good.
We don't see where we're going. We are going forward, but our eyes are in the past.
That's good.
And that when you do forgive, it allows you to turn around and to see the destiny of your future.
Right. Have a vision, because the word says, my people perish because they have no vision. And if you turn it around, that means you're not living life. You're not alive. You're not awake.
Yeah.
And that's how we can even get more hurt.
Yeah. So we
Pick
want
the same guy every time.
Well, that's an interesting point too, is that when we're stuck in the past, we actually repeat the past.
Yeah. Oh, and that's not good.
There's a clinical term for it. It's called traumatic bonding.
Mm-hmm.
And when I've experienced a traumatic relationship, a traumatic experience, and I'm stuck on it, there's actually a part of me that recreates that situation in our lives.
Because it wants to heal.
Because it wants to heal.
Right.
And we recycle through it over and over and over again. Look, today is the day to move out of your past and your painful hurts and to move into your future. And the doorway to that is forgiveness. Let's look at the other life-changing reason why you need to forgive. Look, forgiveness helps you embrace your destiny without fear.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. It's unresolved wounds create anxiety.
Exactly, because you don't want to have them happen to you again. But what happens is you attract the same thing and it happens to you again.
Simple example.
You got one?
Yeah, the girlfriend that burned me as a teenager, and I meet somebody that I love, and I'm scared to get in relationship with them. Why?
Because you don't want to be hurt again.
Because I don't want to be hurt again. And so my destiny of being with this person that I love is sabotaged because I'm still stuck in this unresolved wound that's creating anxiety about the future.
And your ex-girlfriend be married and gone on, have babies and all happy and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you left alone. That ain't right.
It happens in all areas.
Yes.
Relationships. It could happen in a job.
I was thinking the same thing.
Go ahead and give an example.
Well, it's like you get this job, you love it, you work hard, and you build, you're moving on up, and then something happens in the job situation, and you lose your job. So now instead of pushing forward and grieving that you've lost that and to continue to move on, you're afraid to go into that arena again because you don't want to be fired again. And so you lose your dream of what you really want and you settle. Settling is all about unforgiveness.
Yes.
I don't like settling. I want it all. I'm greedy. I want everything Jesus has for me.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah, of
Don't
course.
you, honey?
Of
I
course.
want everything Jesus has for me. I don't want to get up to heaven and Jesus says, "Oh, what's that? It's got my name on it. Oh, that was for you, but you settled. Are you serious? That's my G-Wagon and I settled? No, I ain't going there."
You're going to get a G-Wagon in heaven?
Yes, I'm going to get a G-Wagon. I'm going to get a G-Wagon on earth, really, is what I want. He's just showing me the one I left in heaven. No.
Yeah, so the unresolved wounds, just imagine, if you were wounded and the message was you're unworthy for whatever reason, you're not worthy of.
Yes.
Just imagine how you're going to approach your life in the future when you get good opportunities or good deals, good situations, and you may sabotage it because what goes on inside of you is the old message that's stuck in the past is what? I'm not worthy of. I'm not worthy of. How do we resolve that? We resolve it actually through the process of forgiveness.
And in that process is then you start to realize that a lot of that stuff was lies. Like, I mean, I didn't feel worthy of Dean. Like, I didn't feel like I was good enough to have Dean in my life as a boyfriend, as a friend, yes, but not as a boyfriend, or God forbid, a husband. And I had to continue to work through and forgive my ex-husband and realize the things that he said about me were not true, that I was worthy of love and that I was lovable. And by continuing to work through that, I got Dean.
And you are worthy.
Thank you.
Yes, you are. That makes this show worth it right there.
You know, I kiss you all the time, honey.
Let's look at number 3. The third life-changing reason why you need to forgive. You receive forgiveness for past mistakes when you give forgiveness.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's true. It's actually a spiritual law. We're going to move out of the psychological right now, moving to the spiritual.
The best part.
A spiritual law is when you forgive, you get forgiven everything that you've done.
That's good.
It's true.
It is true.
In the Lord's Prayer, he says, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And then right after that, Jesus is teaching, and he says, if you forgive others of the things that they've done to you, your heavenly Father will forgive you. But then he says something really scary. If you don't forgive others of what they've done to you, your heavenly Father won't forgive you. That's serious.
Yes.
Like
you're asking for something that you're not willing to give.
Yes. And
That's not right.
we're so focused on the psychological, but we forget this spiritual truth that if we harbor unforgiveness towards others, we may not be forgiven, or it says we won't be forgiven. And the other is true, is in it's Luke's gospel. Jesus was teaching the spiritual law. He says, give and it shall be given unto you. What is the law?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you give an it. Whatever the it
Mm-hmm.
is that you give, it's going to come back to you with increase.
With increase.
Pressed down, shaken together, flowing over.
Come on, say that to me again, baby. Press down,
Shaken together.
shaking together,
And flowing over.
and flowing over, the
So,
overflow.
so what's the principle? Is that which I give comes back to me with increase. And that works for the negative and the positive.
That's right.
Because before that, he says, condemn not so that you won't be condemned.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, don't make condemnation your it, because it'll come back. Condemnation will come back to you with what? Increase.
Mm-hmm.
Then he says, judge
Oh,
not
that's right.
so that you won't be judged. Don't make judgment your it, because it will come back to you with increase.
I don't like to judge because I don't like to be judged.
Here come the judge.
I've been
Here
in
come
front
the
of,
judge.
I've been in front of the judge before.
But then he flips it to the positive and he says, forgive, and it shall be forgiven you. What?
Yes, Lord.
Press down, shaking together. Look, I had a lady I worked with years and years ago. She's married to a guy. He drank a lot. He was running women. He was just a mess.
Oh, sound like my ex-husband.
And did this for years and years and years.
Mm.
And one time, in a very, very weak moment, she ended up having an affair.
Mm.
And it about destroyed her. I mean, she was just a good Catholic woman who had a very sensitive conscience, and it destroyed her. And she went to confession. And when she went to confession, and she tried to let it go, and she tried to let it go, and just was tormented by it for years. And I was seeing her. She said, I can't get over this. I'm so guilty. I'm so this. I'm damned, this, not. I said, you want to be forgiven and you want to experience full forgiveness? She said, yes. I said, you'll do whatever I tell you? She says, okay. I said,
I know the answer. Go ahead.
you need to forgive your husband.
I knew it.
My husband, he's got this list this long and mine's this big. I said, I know, but it's not for him. You forgive him, you release forgiveness, and what comes around with increase? Your forgiveness. And she got to a place of peace because God promised that if you forgive, I will forgive you and you will feel it. Look, that's probably one of the biggest reasons, life-changing reasons. Have you ever done anything you still feel guilty about? That you still are struggling with? Well, here's the solution. Forgive those who have hurt you, and you will be forgiven.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's forgiveness is a spiritual law. Forgive and you will be forgiven, and it creates a spiritual boomerang. Yeah, you throw the boomerang around, out, and it whips, and then it comes back with increase. With increase. So we want to slap you with some forgiveness. And the way you do it, we want you to think about people, places, situations.
Write them down.
Experiences that you have that you still linger in your heart and linger in your mind. We're not minimizing it.
No.
Because so many of us experience some very, very difficult things.
Yeah.
And some of them are
extremely painful.
Extremely painful, can be extremely violating.
Yes.
Life has some very, very difficult experiences that we all go through.
Yes.
And so we're not minimizing that. And we're not saying forgiveness is an event. It's a process. But at the same time, it starts with a willingness to say, I forgive this. You need to speak that.
Yeah. Or God, help me forgive this.
God, help me forgive this. Give me the grace of forgiveness.
Yes. Give me the willingness to forgive. If you're not even there yet, just ask God for the willingness to forgive. Yeah, you can always have, I don't know what you got. I can't see what he's written, or typed in. I don't have my glasses on today. But anyway, is to have a forgiveness journal where anytime someone hurts you and you're, really upset, go right in it, and it's just for forgiveness, for things that need to be forgiven. You're in the process of forgiving, and then that way you can start to have something that is in the flow of unforgiveness, and anything that you have left over that you still, it still reminds you and you still feeling it, then write that down. And I always tell people, if you're afraid somebody's going to read your stuff, write in code. Nobody's going to know. Put different names, put different situations, but you know what it is. Um, or have an art journal like I do. And nobody really knows what that is. So it's just for me to know and God to know.
Yeah. So it is a process, and it's a process that starts with a mental assent, and then it starts to work down into your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that the bigger the wound,
Mm-hmm.
the longer it takes typically. I mean, sometimes you get grace.
Yes.
Sometimes, Lord, I forgive, and all of a sudden I'm at peace with this. But
Right.
oftentimes it's a process.
Yeah, the grief process that you got to go through to get to forgiveness, because the last thing is acceptance. And what is acceptance? Forgiveness.
Yes. And how do you work through the process? By externalizing it.
Yes.
By giving a voice. That's why, excuse me, Holly Kim's idea of a grief journal is beautiful.
Thank you.
Because it helps externalize the process.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a process that, I think forgiveness is somewhat counterintuitive. And what I mean by that is our natural mind doesn't fully grasp it.
Mm. Well, because it's not, it appears to be linear, but it's not. It's circular.
It's circular, and it's also spiritual.
Right.
And there's certain things that are spiritual that make sense spiritually in our heart, but don't make sense in our mind. I think retaliation is natural.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
on a fleshly level.
Fleshly, you slap me, I want to slap you back.
Right.
I mean, it's just what happens to us. That's how we're wired.
Right.
But Peter struggled with this teaching because it didn't make sense to his mind. It made sense to his spirit, but it didn't make sense to his mind. So he was like, Jesus. So how many times do I forgive this goofball that's hurting me? 7? What if he keeps doing it? Do I limit it at 7 and then it's over? Jesus said, no. 70 times 7.
Because they're always going to be hurting us. We're always going to be getting hurt. So it's a constant.
You can't afford.
Did Jesus say it's 7 times 70 or 70 times 70?
I don't know. Look it up, baby.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 70.
I think it's 7 times 70. But...
Well, for me, it was 70 times 70 because I had lots of people that I needed to forgive in my life.
But 7 times 70. 7 is sort of a completion, a spiritual, number. Eternal words, a number. So it means forever, really, is the root of it. Continuously.
Yes.
And we need to do that continuously.
Yes.
And that's how you get to a place of peace.
Yes.
All of us want peace. All of us want to stand in our shoes right now and be at peace with ourselves, peace with God, and peace with the world. And Jesus taught us real simply is the avenue, one of the avenues to that place is through forgiveness. Yeah. Yeah. Why wouldn't we forgive? Most of the time what keeps us from forgiving is that we think we're letting the person off the hook. It's not about them. It's not about what you do with your relationship with them. It's an issue of your heart towards yourself and towards God.
Yeah, because if you have a hard heart, no one's getting in. The love's not getting in from others. You miss it, and you miss it. You miss everything that's coming towards you, and you don't get your heart full of love. And look, you're not going to walk on this earth without getting hurt. I mean, the first thing that happens when you're born, when a baby is born, the first thing that happens is they hit the baby. I mean, I never had a baby, but they hit the baby, they pinch the baby. They want the baby's got to cry. If the baby doesn't cry, I mean, it's like code blue up in there. They'll let the mama die. That baby has to cry. Why? Why does the baby have to feel pain? Because it's the only way you know if someone is alive. We need to know that they need to know that that baby is alive, that that baby feels. So the first thing that happens to us on earth is pain. We feel pain. Then everybody's excited in that room and they love the baby. We go back from a wounded part and then everybody loves the baby and you go back to your true self, and you feel love. Love heals. However, what happens on earth is that the next time we start to get hurt is that we try to pretend it's not there, or someone says to us, I'm gonna give you something to cry about if you keep crying. I don't know why that matters to you. It's not that important. Let it go. You'll get another friend. We're moving. You'll get another dog. So what? It died. It'll be okay. But that's not true. If it's important to us, it matters. So in that process of needing to forgive, it's a constant because we're always going to be losing something.
Yes.
And someone's always going to be doing something that hurts us. The majority of the time, almost all the time, it's not on purpose. There are people that do things to hurt us on purpose, yes. However, the majority of the time, in the 90 percentile, they do it, they don't realize it hurts us. And so it's my job to get into that process so I can have a soft heart. So I'm not hardened. So when love comes around in a different color face, in a different way, in a different atmosphere, that I can receive that love. Because if I get stuck that the only way I can get love is from this one way, this one person, this one thing, I'm going to miss all the love that's around me. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Speaking truth.
Thank you, honey.
So the question was
Where was the
forgive
question?
or not forgive?
Oh, forgive.
And
Please.
the answer is forgive.
Forgive.
And we taught on what the forgiveness process is, or the
Yes.
grief process is, last week. So we're going to put that video up and you can watch that if you want to know what that
In
process
case you
is.
missed it.
In case you missed it. And thank you for joining us today at I Have a Voice. And we say,
Have a voice.
have a voice.
See you next week.